Hey, what's going on? It's me, Deja with WBLS. And we always bring all of your favorite artists, all of your stories, especially during Black History Month. We have a story to tell. Actually, our guest, comedian and actor Guy Torry, has a story to tell. Let's bring him on in. Hey, Guy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good day. What's happening? Deja boo, 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 boo.
Listen, Guy. Okay, I'm going to do like everybody does with you and all the celebs. I met you before.
Yes.
Do you remember? I used to work in St. Louis
The
at
Lou.
the Beat. I
Yep.
was the program director there. Yeah, I just wanted to. I
It
just
was
want to say,
this
yeah,
is
I met her.
this
Okay.
is this is this you know what put now it's like I couldn't place a face, but now I was like, okay, that is the same person. I totally remember now.
Yes, I had different hair then. I had hair. I don't have any hair now. But yeah,
Right. Hey,
I
hey,
had hair then.
keep it tight, keep it right.
Ow, ow. Okay, but no, seriously, you've been keeping it tight and keeping it busy, my brother, behind the scenes doing things, in front of the camera doing things. And now you're telling the story that I don't think many of us knew. Now, I knew that in the 90s, there was an explosion of Black comedy starting,
Right.
a lot people doing their thing around in the clubs. And then, of course, Def Comedy Jam. But you had an integral part in the success of Black comedy, West Coast getting back over to the East Coast. So break it down for us with your new project.
Phat Tuesdays, the era hip hop comedy, is a documentary about a night I created in 1995. The best damn comedy show, period. It was at the Comedy Store, the world famous Comedy Store on the Sunset Strip, and I created because there was a lack of opportunity for Black comedians in the hood after the Rodney King riots in 1992. Industry quit going to the hood to see Black comedians, and by
Mm.
'95, I had a couple of credits under my belt, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna bring the hood to Hollywood. I want to showcase some of these brothers and sisters who are getting overlooked. And I went to the Comedy Store, and the rest was history. And never looked back.
That is amazing. So
But I
how
did
did you
reach
get
back.
people
I didn't look back, but I did reach back.
he reached back. Okay, that's a good thing. But wait, how did you get them convinced to say, "Hey, listen, we'll open this night up for you"? Because like you said, the world famous Comedy Store, that's where everybody goes through to work out their material from all the big names in the industry. How did you convince them to say, "Hey, listen, this is the new trend right here"?
Well, it was divine intervention because first of all, I always say it was an assignment. Like I had no idea what I was doing, and to have the doors open that were opened had to be by divine order from a power much bigger than me. So, and at the time it was a perfect storm because Def Comedy Jam had exploded, so this new found comedy to white people was popular. And
Mm.
at the same time, the riots had happened in Los Angeles, so the city was divided, and people needed to laugh. And the Comedy Store wasn't the Comedy Store the way it was, years prior. So they
Mm.
needed us. We needed them. LA needed the laughter, and Hollywood needed the talent.
Awesome. All right. Speaking of talent, that's the perfect entryway. How did you select the talent in there? Did you go and scope out people yourself, or did you get like, yo, this one's popping over here in Inglewood, bring him on? How did you
Well,
select the people that you wanted to put on the stage?
But when I first started, I started in the belly room, which is a comedy show have three rooms: the belly room,
Mhm.
the original room, and the main room. The belly room being the smallest of the rooms. So I started there, and I kind of did have a potluck. Whoever got there first, you pull a number. Whatever number you pull, that's when you're going up. So after doing that for 9 months, and I moved to the main room, the bigger room, that stage was too important to do that same thing. That
Absolutely.
stage was the main stage where Pryor had graced that stage, and George Carlin and Eddie Murphy and Robin Williams and all those greats. So I had to change the game. I also changed the game because, when I did it the old way, I probably have 10, 11 comics on stage. And when
Mhm.
industry comes to scout, it's a school night for them. They can't be out too late. They got to work the next morning. So by the time the cream of the crop gets on stage, they're already gone. So I
Mhm.
went to the main room. I cut out that and just put people who were ready, comedians who were ready for that big stage. That's who I picked on stage. So it was a conflict of interest for me to keep booking the room. So I would train people to book. A friend of mine had moved there from St. Louis, and I taught him how to book a solid lineup. We went through every comic. We put all numbers by each comic, one through five, and that was the order that they would be a good position in the lineup of the show. So then we put these combinations together. You can't have four ones on a show. You can have a 1 or 2 or 4 and a 5, or you could. So we did these crazy combinations where it matched a different comic style, energy, gender, because we wanted to make sure we had at least one woman on every show. So it was a foolproof formula to have a great show.
That was amazing because what you did, I didn't even know that you were behind this. And I can't wait to see the actual movie. I went over there on Amazon thinking it was out already. And it was like coming on February 4th. So I was like, okay, I'll come back and check for it. But what you did really moved all across the country. I mean, that kind of thing was huge. So how did you continue to stretch the Comedy Store, that whole momentum?
You know what? I did it for 10 years, and
You did it for 10 years? I didn't know it was
I did
that
it for
long.
10 years. I did it for 10, but it could have gone longer because what happened was I got busy. I was newly married at that time. I was still touring, doing comedy shows. I was still acting, and I was doing radio. I was doing, in
Oh,
LA,
man.
doing the Tony Scott and the Breakfast Crew with Tammy Holland and Tony Scott from LA. So it was just too much, and still creating, producing and hosting the Comedy Store, Phat Tuesdays. So something had to go, and since at that time that was the least profitable one, I wasn't gonna get rid of the wife, well, not back then, but I think she got rid of me. I didn't get rid of her. So it was the least profitable one, and which was Phat Tuesdays. So I passed the torch. I wanted to make sure that room went on, but with somebody else, because Black comedians still needed that stage at that place.
So where do you think comedy is now, Black comedy? Because it seemed like in the 90s and in the early 2000s, it was everywhere, but you don't really hear about that rumbling of comedians like you did back then. Or is it that we're oversaturated now? I don't know.
Way oversaturated, but that's okay, because I'm gonna help saturate the market even more. I just got to find a different way to do it. We're definitely more saturated than it was. Back then, what did you have? You had Def Comedy Jam and Comic View. That was really it for urban comedy. A couple of us would be on other mainstream shows on Comedy Central or whatever late night talk show, but the main two was Def Comedy Jam and Comic View. So of course you're gonna hear it would be an explosion. Plus the 90s were an explosion for Black people anyway. Fashion, hip hop, TV, film. We were all over the place in the 90s. So now it's with the success of the internet, of social media. Now it's really, really saturated, but that's why it's more important for you to find your it and find your thing. What's going to separate you from everybody else? What's your it, right? What's going to make you stand out amongst all the noise and all the muck? And no matter what it is, not just stand-up comedy, but whether you do radio, or whether you're a gardener, or whether a babysitter, or whatever you're a teacher, what's going to make you stand out from everybody else? And I think that's a good challenge, because what it does is it makes you work harder and raise the bar, like what the pandemic did. The pandemic, you either had to sink or swim. You were going to have to figure it out. And I think that was good for people who are creative, and it made us figure it out.
Listen, you up in here preaching and dropping gems, brother. Come on. Okay. So, but during the pandemic, was this when you formulated the idea to tell this story? And how did you connect with Reggie Hudlin?
Well, actually, I've been working on this documentary for 13 years. Comedian Michael Blackson was on a flight one time. We were both on a flight sitting next to each other. And he was talking about Phat Tuesdays and how he missed it and how great of a night it was, and how these young comedians need to know the story of Phat Tuesdays. And I love documentaries. And I was like, let me see what I have. Let me look in the archives and see what I have on Phat Tuesdays. So then I started just really kind of asking around comedians and people who attended Phat Tuesdays, like, what was your experience with Phat Tuesdays? And these amazing stories start coming out of their personal experience with Phat Tuesdays. And I was like, wow, I just wanted to do stand-up. I didn't think I impacted people's lives like that, and they cared about Phat Tuesdays like that. So had I known, I probably would have kept it going. But I didn't know that. I'm too busy hosting it and running around backstage trying to get comedians in line and produce the show. So I said I had something here. So I ended up putting a sizzle together with a friend of mine, Bishop Moore, who was an up-and-coming director. We filmed a lot of interviews, and then we put a presentation together. We took it to my agency, Innovative Artists, and they thought we had something. So we took it to the marketplace, and looked for a producing company to partner with us. We ended up with GramNet, Kelsey Grammer's company, who was partnered up with Original Productions, who only do documentaries. And then we start pitching it to studios and networks, and Amazon was the right fit. Everything was the right fit. GramNet was the right fit. Original Productions was the right fit, and Amazon was the right fit. And Reggie Hudlin as director, I mean, come on. I talked to Reggie about this years ago when he was on set of Django. And,
Wow.
and it took me a while to get it to where it was presentable. And they wanted a few other directors. I wanted Reggie Hudlin because he's from East St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis. I respected his work. I respected his comedic genius, but also his directorial genius. And I texted him and said, hey, man, remember that project of Phat Tuesdays? I want to do it. He's like, well, I'm a little busy right now, executive producing the Emmys. I was like, oh, that little thing.
That little thing.
That little thing. And he said, I'll call you next week. And I'm like, okay, I didn't got the brush off. That's what Hollywood talk. I'll call you next week.
Call you next week. Let me reach back to you. Okay.
Yeah. He called me the next week. I called him on that Thursday about it. He said he'll call me next week. He called me on that Tuesday. I sent him the materials. He texted me that Wednesday and said, we got to do this. And I started welling up in the eyes. I'm like, that's when I started seeing it real.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And now you get to share that gift that happened back then with everybody. And of course, a new generation. Now, my question for you, Guy, is what comes after this? Because you've given birth to this project. Has it, started stirring up some things about, hey, maybe doing some more projects via the streaming method?
I did give birth to it. I did give birth to this, and I'm gonna be Nick Cannon and have a bunch of more births out there with Phat Tuesday projects. With you. He got a lot of kids.
Like 8 of them around. Okay.
Now that's my man. I love Nick. So there's a lot of talking to work with other projects. We're trying to figure out which one we're gonna do first, but it will be under the Phat Tuesday brand.
Oh, so you're gonna make this as like the whole production company?
It is. Yeah, it's a production company already. But we have more projects under that title. So
break
Phat
it down
Tuesdays
for me, okay?
We'll definitely have some offsprings. This is the granddaddy, and we're gonna have a bunch of little daddies and sons and uncles and nieces and nephews running around too.
I love it.
They all gonna be fat.
They all gonna be fat. All right. So what else is going on with you behind the scenes personally? Because we just need to know. We all in your business. Family life, kid life, vacation life during the pandemic. Talk to us. What's going on? How have you survived?
I'm such a workaholic and so focused on work. It's God first and work second. And I'm so focused on these projects that I'm doing, but personally trying to get back in shape, trying to get this pandemic weight off of me a little bit.
Listen, let's sign up together, okay? Because baby, the way I was eating.
See, I lost 18 pounds during the pandemic. Then I gained it back. When you start
How did you lose weight during the pandemic? Were you stressed?
Well, no. Here's the thing, and this is the thing where the pandemic was good for me. I hate that people lost jobs, lost lives, lost relatives, lost businesses, lost their good health. I hate that, but I needed the break. I didn't miss the humans during the pandemic at all because I'm on the road 40 weekends a year. I do 300 shows a year.
Good night.
I'm a comedian. I drink for free. Okay, I drink for free.
Wait, okay. What's your favorite drink?
I'm a tequila and vodka guy.
I should have known. I should have known.
I'm a tequila vodka guy. So the thing about it is, I drink for free. I'm doing about 4 shots a show between mixed drinks and just shots. 4 shots a show. 300 shows a year. The stress of traveling, I'm not complaining, just explaining. Stress of traveling, the stress of hotels, the stress of the shows, wondering if you're going to sell tickets or not, and just eating bad as a comic on the road. You're eating late night, you're eating fast food, you're eating comedy club food, you got late nights, early flights. At the 8 a.m., you got the drinking, you got everything. That's a recipe for disaster, for bad health. So I needed that pandemic to happen for me personally to get my body time to relax, to chill, and all of that. So I had a Peloton long before the pandemic.
Oh, so you was hip to the wave before everybody else jumped on it. You were an early adapter.
Yes. So I was on that Peloton riding like I was riding for the Tour de France. So I lost 18 pounds. Plus, I got some cute instructors on the Peloton.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
yeah, when they do the mirror back shot, that's my favorite one when they
Get
get on the
out of
bike. And
here. Get out.
yeah, that's
Not messing
motivation.
with
That's motivation. But that's how I lost weight, but also not drinking.
you.
Not
Mhm.
drinking like I was on the road. That's where a lot of the calories come from. The calories come from all that alcohol. And it's free. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna say no.
You know what? You're a mess. You're a mess. But we're glad to see you're still looking good, my brother. You're still looking good. And
Hey,
I
I'm gonna tell
can't
you
wait to
something.
see the story about Phat Tuesdays.
I'm gonna tell you why it looked good. Was the right lighting and some matte Studio Fix Press Powder 55. You look good too.
You better do it. Thank you, Guy Torry, for stopping by on WBLS. We'll be checking out Phat Tuesdays right on Amazon. Thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing you again.
You
Thank you. Thank
too.
you. Thank you.